very unprofessional.
This is Rare Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along again to this edition of the panel on learmedia.tv. And the information is along your screen there. If you want to join us any night or you want to make a comment, the email and phone number is there, and you're welcome to do so. We'd like to thank all the people that looked in. We were a bit surprised, but not very surprised, that people are interested in what we're talking about. And this program is about ideas and on current topics and current situations that may arise locally, nationally, and internationally. Good evening, Tony Browne.
Good evening, Mr. Barr.
Good evening, Mary Honan. Welcome.
Hi, how's everyone?
Now, we had a few more, but for various reasons, they cannot join us this week. Anyway, we look forward to them sometime coming on screen with us. But we'll only deal with the people that are with us tonight. And I said thanks to all the people who took the time to watch the show last week. Press the red button on the right-hand side to subscribe to our channel and tell all your friends to subscribe to our channel as well. We are looking at the proposed hate speech law that's in the door at the moment. Now, I don't think it'll be disposed of before the general election. I don't know, I'm not no nurse here, but the hate speech law has provoked an awful lot of controversy, not alone here, but throughout Europe, and anybody who values free speech. But I suppose if you're going to enact any law, anybody who has a knowledge of the law, you have to have, what let's say, an explanation for what you're legislating for. In other words, what the meaning of hate speech, a definition of hate speech, rather. And they haven't done that in all their interviews they've done. So I don't know what it is. You heard about this, Tony, this carry on. Did you just hate speech law?
But the law is back since today. I think today's the first day back.
Yeah.
I missed them terrible for the best. Along with the other holidays, about 2 months today, I think.
I think so, yeah. I know.
They're back today. But as regards free, see, it's very hard. What is free speech,
Yeah.
Well, I knew what free speech anyway is really gone. There's a lot of things you can't open your mouth about now. And people are afraid to even talk about certain things. You're cast as either one side or the other. Are you far right or you're far left? And it's very confusing. When I remember now what you could say before, you can't say now. So be very careful. I mean, the whole situation has gone crazy altogether, as far as I'm concerned anyway. As people tell you can't say that. I said, why can't I? It shouldn't be done, You'd wonder, what is free speech? I mean, you can't really say what you want anymore.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a sad society we're in, Mary. Would you agree with what?
I agree 100%. I agree with 100% with Tony on that. It's like, who controls somebody's speech? Who determines whether something is true or untrue? And even if it were either true or untrue, it's a person's opinion. The idea, it's almost like they don't want anymore someone to be educated in critical thinking. They just want one particular type of dialogue. And it's almost like you're talking to yourself. If somebody doesn't agree with you, their opinions are far right. I mean, there's no one in the middle now. I would consider myself centrist. I would consider myself quite right on certain subjects and very left on other. And but yet, if I were to say anything that was deemed to be right, it would be far right and not center right. And I think most people are centrist. They have very conservative views on some things, and then they have very liberal views on other things.
Yeah.
And who determines that somebody's speech is or should be listened to and someone else's speech shouldn't? Surely should be able to have a deep conversation with each other and agree vehemently with each other, but agree to disagree and say, well, look,
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
there. I
I couldn't
disagree
care less
with you,
who criticises who. Didn't worry me. If somebody criticises somebody, I have my opinion. And I wouldn't. I don't like people having definite views on anything and persuading me that they're right. I don't like that because everything can be proven right or wrong, and everybody has a view. Is there a God there? Isn't there a God there? But I would give my opinion on what I think. But I don't want anybody ramming something down my throat and telling me they're right when
exactly.
I don't agree with them.
But we were all brought into this earth as we believe, as Christians and as Catholics. I suppose we were all brought into the world with this idea that we were given free will and that we were given freedom of choice. That seemed to have been taken away with us from us during COVID. You didn't have the free will and the bodily autonomy that now they're telling certain people that they have a right to bodily autonomy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yet during COVID, they didn't have a right to any bodily autonomy. They were expected to follow like sheep
Oh,
along.
yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
Well, it's rammed down our throats. Certain things have been rammed down our throats,
yeah.
and it's very annoying.
And you can't, and you cannot, you're not allowed questions sometimes. You said, Tony, in the start of the conversation.
You're not allowed. I know that.
There's a label put on you then for doing that.
It's very hard when you're. It's
I
very
think
hard,
that
when
yeah,
you're there.
this hate speech bill came up or came into vogue during the COVID period and shortly after. They didn't want any dissent on the government line. They want no dissent at all whatsoever. So people were labelled, and some people were arrested as well by the Gardaí for speaking out. So, as you said, you weren't allowed question, but there's no definition of hate speech, and the whole area of comedy, for instance, is completely sidelined now.
So, Pat, I think the hardest thing that I heard. Now, everybody follows their own beliefs, and whether it's religious or political or social beliefs. And who are we to contradict um, another person for their religious beliefs? But I saw a woman in the UK not so long ago arrested because she was outside an abortion clinic. Now, whether she was or she wasn't outside the abortion clinic, they arrested her for praying in her head. They actually arrested her
for silent prayer.
For silent prayer, for thinking prayers. I mean, when it's gone as bad as that you can be arrested for your thoughts.
Yeah, but hold on now. Why was she there? Why couldn't she pray at home?
But even if you disagree that she should be outside there, she has the right to stand where she likes. She wasn't praying vocally. There's three of us here. Two of us are Roman Catholic. One of us isn't. And we all have to respect each other's religious views. And the woman wasn't. It wasn't what she was thinking. There's a man after being freed on a 6-month suspended sentence for having hundreds of child pornography images that he paid for, but because of who he was freed. He was freed on a 6-month suspended sentence, and a woman can be arrested purely for praying in her head.
That's gone to one extreme. I don't think myself anyway. I brought it up because I was reading about it. I don't think it will ever come into law because nobody can give you a legal definition of what hate speech is.
Yeah, nobody seems to know. No, it's all said because I've said things now. I was told you can't say this, and I said why? Because you don't say it. Nobody seems to know.
Even Tony calling a person a gobshite now in public, you could be arrested for it,
But it's all down to feelings now, Pat. It's not down to fact anymore. And I forget who says facts don't care about your feelings. It's Jordan. Is it Jordan Peterson? No, it's not. It's what's his name? Ben Shapiro. Facts don't care about your feelings, and he's actually right. But yet now, if I take offense to someone calling me small, I can. The person who calls me and says, "Oh, you're too small," they can be arrested, but yet nobody will be arrested for preventing a person from getting a job because they're over 55 years of age. When you know in your heart that you're the most qualified person for the job and you don't get it because you know in your heart it's an ageism thing, nobody can turn around and say, I'm offended I didn't get the job because I was over 55 or whatever. But
Yeah.
I say I'm offended because she said I was small, or she said I was too fat or whatever. And you can be arrested for saying that because I got offended, but I can't be offended when it comes to not getting a job because of my age.
But when you look back, Tony, at the old comedy clips we were looking at from time to time, some of the skits, they wouldn't be allowed on television today.
Oh, there's lots of things wouldn't be allowed now.
I mean, I'm thinking of the skit on the Nazis in
Don't mention the war.
Don't mention in Fawlty Towers. You couldn't say that. You couldn't say that today.
No.
Hello.
What about the Gemmery? The things
And
that the Gemmery used to do.
the Kimmery.
And Benny Hill.
Hello, and all of those, and Alf Garnett. For God's sake, they'd never get in TV now.
No. I don't think so.
Actually, something comes to mind. I was hoping next Wednesday to take the Limerick Historical Society on a walk around St. Joseph's Hospital. But unfortunately, we couldn't go in unless we had, first of all, insurance, which we have.
Yes.
And on top of that, you'd have to go to the girl that answered now did her best. And she said she has to get permission from another girl who God only knows who she has to get it from, just to go in around the grounds of St. Joseph's Hospital. I can go up during the day, nobody will stop me. Did you think we were going to break all the windows or something? And they said that wanted to know then how many were going. I mean, how long is a piece of string? We're about 220 members, and they're not all going to show up.
No.
Do I tell the person we have 6 people going and they say that's for too little? Do I tell them we have 68 and they say it's too many? How many people are going? Can you believe it? And there was somebody, a property manager, if you don't mind, had to give her okay to it as well. And Sandra something, she's working out in UL with the HSE, and she has to give her permission. Can you such rubbish? I mean,
that's precisely what's wrong with the HSE.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to put their name to anything.
No.
Nobody wants to say yes to anything. And I presume the HSE owns St. John's.
What do you do? St. Joseph's, yeah.
That's there above the chair. Is that the place above the chair?
But here's the laughing part. I was on a trip there about 6 weeks ago with another group.
Yeah.
And I went along really for the full of my mouth, as I say. And they were all ex-nurses who really weren't interested anyway. And I can say that myself because I was watching them. I was the only outsider that was there.
Yeah.
And still I could go in with them. And I can't bring a historical society in there. Well, they didn't actually refuse us. It's just they wanted insurance and they wanted permission from these people. Who are these people that can give permission?
It's gone completely insane because, I mean, I live directly opposite St. Joseph's Mental Hospital. And as a child, myself and Redden, Mary Purcell, Magellan, all a group of us that was our playground, Tony. We used to climb up on the wall, climb down the tree inside St. Joseph's Hospital and play inside in the green. And we used to talk to the patients. We'd sit over in the shed. There used to be a shed there. And we'd sit with the patients and chat to them. And we used to go in at Christmas and run Christmas concerts for them as well, in the Irish dancing, and go in there. And now to hear that you cannot even go around and bring a tour around, that was
unreal.
Unreal.
Not alone that, there was a person to come with us who has done a thesis on the hospital, and which is already printed. Most of it is printed in a copy of the Old Limerick Journal.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's frustrating, you
We
know, to
wouldn't
think.
even let an apple
And,
on their orchard.
and
We used to take all the apples off their trees.
But apart from that, I mean, they tell you that you
what is it being used for now?
what?
What is it being used for now?
Well,
Offices.
there are big plans for the grounds in there. I said they'll build houses in there eventually. There's huge amount. There must be about 20 or 30 acres of ground there.
It's a huge site,
Massive. It's a
and
huge. But and
it's just been just to my view, walking up there, it's just been wasted.
It
oh
is
yeah, it's
being
crazy. It's
wasted.
been
There's
there.
no reason why it
But
shouldn't
then
be a mental facility still.
no, but you've all these officials then, as they like to be called in the HSA. I'd love to know what they'll be doing all day. You know, it's like if you go to the regional hospital, I guarantee you'll meet somebody with a board in their hand, and they're in a hurry, walking up and down the corridors. You know, going from one spot to another. Which to me, why isn't all this being done in email? You know, just and ring them. They're constantly walking up and down the corridors out there with a kind of a folder in their hands, like a thing for give me your name, you know. And then
Yeah.
they're all in a hurry, walking up and down, you know. I can't
But,
understand that.
you know, there's still a lot of depression in the world, and a lot of depression in the country, and you know, it would be a fine facility for people to go if it was done up properly and done up therapeutically. It would be a wonderful premises. Pat is looking at the TV. It
Yeah,
would
but
be
that's who cares? Who
a
cares?
wonderful premises for people to spend maybe 6 months or spend maybe 3 months recuperating, maybe from addictions or whatever. If it was done into a therapy center, it would be
But that
amazing.
won't happen. I brought a group there. That's another thing that annoys me. I brought another historical society to see that place about, it must be 20 years ago. And there was no
Yeah.
problem getting in there. And there were patients there, that's how. And I was still able to walk in with the group into the, because it's a fabulous building. It's one of the
Is it?
finest buildings we have in Limerick. The
It's an
architecture and
amazing building.
everything.
It's an
But
And
amazing building.
they tell us the
it's
wanted how many were going, and oh God, it's just why couldn't somebody have said, which they can, somebody could say, that's fine. Will you make sure there's nobody breaking any windows or going to knock down anything, you know?
They're
And
afraid of being sued, and
oh
what's
no,
yeah,
it's
what they're really and what's really wrong is that they should be embracing and letting people in to see the history of the place, because it has had a shockingly bad history.
oh
But it
terrible.
also it was also part of the fabric of Limerick and part of the fabric of Mulgrave Street. And as I say, it was the backdrop to our childhoods in there. I mean, we loved going in there playing, and
Yeah,
we
well,
would
there's no,
never go out.
yeah, but Tony and Mary, there's no doubt about it. The main reason for loading it over to the HSC is ensuring that there'll be nothing done.
but they're faceless people. That's what annoys me.
Yeah.
Some fella can make a decision, and nobody knows who he is or she
But
is.
hopping back to last week, are we surprised when you look at the
Oh no,
360,000 that was spent in the bicycle shed?
yeah.
Who's responsible for that?
But he should be, his name should be, and his photograph should be put up on the television. And does his children know? You know, that's what
But,
I'd love to know.
but,
People
but
making the
if
decisions.
you're relying on our national broadcast RT, I was reading an article in yesterday's paper. RTE itself, last year for 2023, it lost 9.3 million euro. Now, that was the headline. Who's going to be paying that? Who's going to be paying that money? All of us here on this, looking at this, will be saddled with that. And RT already got 40 million euro of a bailout last year from the government.
What did it?
And they've also now recently been awarded 750 million euro. I'll say this again, 750 million euro for 2025, 2026, and 2027, together with the television license and together with any other income they can accrue on a business level.
So it seems it's a good thing to do corruption, because you get
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
compensated.
for
I think it was,
a 30-second ad on the Late Late Show, which is still running, I think it started back last week. A 30-second ad, they're charging 13,600 euro. And
for
yet,
what? For that?
for an ad, 30-second ad on the thing, Joe Duffy has the biggest salary of 361,000 a year for Liveline, followed by Miriam O'Callaghan, followed by Claire Byrne and Brendan O'Connor. They're all on 6-figure sums. But that's their salary plus all the other perks, the pension.
But you can't knock that in if they're taking it in an ad, you see. That's another side to it.
I'm not saying they're worth it.
They shouldn't have both. They shouldn't have both. They should either be funded by ads, or they should be funded by the TV license. No one should have to pay a TV license for a company that's also making money from the government and from ads. They can't have it every way.
Well, they do. They're guaranteed now to have it that way for the next 3 years anyway. So,
and it's immoral to pay anyone 330 odd thousand.
Yeah, but back again, politics, people don't care. You're one show. What was the chief executive? D. Forbes, just thought of her name now.
Yeah.
She refused to go before a board.
No, they can't force her.
She was ill.
And it's crazy. But then there's somebody now after stepping down out in the regional hospital from the board of that, and they still have their pension. That's what I can't understand. They can just resign from something and end up with a pension.
The head of the regional hospital, Tony, also, from what I understand, has a job in the University of Limerick as well as running. It's much once more. It's money grabbing.
But you see, as Tony said, the majority of people in Ireland don't care. They do not care.
When did we become so lacking in care, or so just apathetic is the word? Yes, that's what I was searching for. When did we become so apathetic? This is a country known as the Fighting Irish. It makes me laugh. Whose people died for this country and fought for this country, and now we have people who just they'll only come out for certain things out on the streets. They won't come out. Their attitude is it's not happening to me, it's happening to someone else. Who cares?
People say he's an awful clown, but they still elect him. Look at even the local elections here in Limerick.
Yeah.
Some of the people that were re-elected, I couldn't believe it. They got back again.
There you go. 90% of people in my county Clare voted for Fianna Fáil again. So,
and they turn around then and say, "I don't like him. I don't like that," and still they vote for them. I cannot understand it.
The devil is better than
you're listening to the panel here on LearMedia.tv, and we'll have a little suspiog now, Marsh, and press the red button on the right hand side to subscribe to our channel.
All right, I've recited a poem for you. 'Twas New Year's Eve at Joe's pub. A happy mob was there. The bars and tables were crowded, lots of noise filled the air. In the middle of all this gaiety, the door banged open wide. A torn and tattered tramp walked in. Happy New Year, folks, he cried. The crowd just looked at him and laughed, and some began to jeer. But a sailor standing at the bar said, "Ship ahoy, mate, have a beer." "I'll thank you, son," the tramp replied. "The beer me are through. I'll never touch a drop again, but I'll split a bottle of rum with you." Then up jumped a banker, who happened to be there. Said, "Throw him out," he cried. "He contaminates the air." "Them's harsh words, friend," the sailor said. The banker said, "So what?" A cargo said, "Are you able to be shot?" Are you meant to be shot? You're a joke. In the middle of all this getting joking. The crowd just sort of laughed. I won't be a second. Oh, yes.
I suppose.
He was just so innocent. His comedy was so innocent, and yet he could do everything. All of the tricks. The funny part of it was he could do everything. All of those tricks. He was a genius of a magician. but it was the comedy and the tragedy of the way he died. Some would say it was lovely. That's the way he lived, to die on more or less on stage, to collapse on stage, and they
Right.
thought it was part of the act, and they drew the curtain, and then they
It's
realized.
like Bing Crosby, sure, he loved golf and he died in the golf course.
Yeah, it was happy probably for him that he went that way, but for sudden death,
Tommy Cooper had a face for comedy.
he had.
When you just,
will I die in my sewing machine, will I?
we'll stitch you up before you put it in.
Yeah,
We
could I
put a
just do
piece of
it?
fabric underneath your hands
Yeah.
and stitch you up.
Can we
And
say just put it-
we
just
put
put
a
it-
smile on your face, Tony, so people
yeah.
don't recognize you.
I was reading stuff during the week on oddity stuff, and there's a little village and a town in Scotland called Wick, Wick, and you might wonder, why am I mentioning the town called Wick? Well, for just one reason: it has the shortest street in the world. It's considered the shortest street in the world, and it measures 6'9". The street, tiny street. I think it's in the Guinness Book of Records. But what intrigued me about it is there's only one house on the street, and the funny thing, there's a number on the house, and I wondered, why is there a number on the house since it's the only one on the street? It's number 1. I forget the name of the street. I'll look up in a minute, but it's in Wick in Scotland, and it got me thinking. In Limerick, where we're coming from, the Limerick area, what's the shortest street in Limerick City?
I can tell you.
Huh?
I can tell you.
Would it be Robert Street?
Well, the shortest street, but it's the shortest one with the number of houses in it. Quinlan Street.
Where's that?
Quinlan Street.
Yeah.
That's down. That's off the.
Where's that, Tony?
I'm waiting for him to say he says he knows it for a while now.
Hold on, like, I remember. I walked around Limerick a lot. At Quinlan Street.
Come on.
Is it down by John Street?
No,
No, is it off the quay?
no.
No, Holly's Quay. No.
It's off the Crescents. There's South Pub,
Yes.
give their address as O'Connell Avenue.
South Pub.
There's 2 shops next to that, give their address as O'Connell Avenue.
Yes.
But there's one house on the corner, and there are 3 houses across the road on the other side. They're the only houses in Quinlan Street.
Yeah.
Whereas the Baptist Church use O'Connell Avenue, St. Joseph's Church, they're in O'Connell Avenue. So you've only about 6 premises that are on Quinlan Street. Quinlan was a mayor of Limerick one time.
So you would say that Quinlan Street would be the shortest street in
I would
Limerick?
say so. Yeah, I would say so anyway.
Yeah,
There are other ones. There are probably ones now with buildings falling down and they're gone tiny altogether because of some buildings being taken away, and then people want fancy addresses. So there's people out in Kildimo, and they say they're living in Adair. There's people above the top near me up above they call that Rossbrine. That's not Rossbrine at all. Rossbrine is 2 miles out the road on the Rossbrine road. But people say they're Rossbrine, but they're not. You see, so you'll never change that. You need the maps. I have the maps. And when you check the maps with the proper boundaries on them, usually there were streams that give boundaries. But like that, you might be talking to the world because people want to get more money.
Is it time to have a review of some of these streets are called after? I don't know who they're called after. William Street. Who's that called after?
Well, he was the Bishop of Limerick, William Cecil Perry. There's 2 streets called after it.
And what's the Irish?
No.
He's born here, but does that make you Irish or not? You see, if you're born here.
It does.
It's like people in Belfast, if they're born there, are they Irish or English? You see?
Both. Yeah.
What's his name? The poet said he was Irish. What's his name? The fellow that died above in County Tyrone. He said he was Irish, and still the people called him English. So you kind of wonder, you're Irish or English. There's one or the other. And you shouldn't be allowed 2 passports anyway, as far as I'm concerned. You should only be allowed 1 passport from where you come from in the story, as far as I'm concerned. Because of people travelling 2 and 3 passports now, which is stupid.
And there's a street up there opposite the railway station. What's it called again?
Whereabouts?
Huh?
Whereabouts after the railway station?
The chip shop is Luigi's and
To which?
the dry cleaners there down from the railway
Parnell
station.
Street. That's Parnell Street. That used to be Nelson Street, and then they changed it to Parnell Street.
And what Parnell is that? Our own fella?
Charlie, yeah, that's your Parnell, yeah.
No, yeah, well, that's acceptable, yeah.
It used to be Nelson Street. They changed.
Yeah.
They changed most of the street names in 1922. They changed most of them.
Did they?
Some didn't. They didn't change Bedford Row, which they should have had. They left Bedford Row alone after the Duke of Bedford. Most of them are all Lord Lieutenants. Mulgrave,
Yeah,
for
but
example.
I can't understand why people would want these names changed, because for better or for worse, they're
Bedford Row now should be called Willie O'D Row, should it?
they're part of our history.
Well,
You know, whether you like it or not, they're part. You know, I don't understand how people have this craze for knocking statues or changing names. They're part of our history, and it just seems to me like a futile effort to try and get rid of a place name just because it's not in fashion anymore. You know, the whole thing beggars belief for me. You know.
But the people that are making the decisions on these, that have the clue about history anyway, we all know that. You know, I submitted a list about 20 years ago of names of people that should have been called after.
Yeah.
It was never taken on board, you know. They called the place out in Dennis Road Verical Gardens.
Yeah, I saw it.
They robbed the city, did it. What they did to the city was disgraceful.
But why isn't there, you know, I mean, it may not be a popular thing to say, but why isn't there, Tony, a place or something, some recognition whatsoever for Hugh O'Flaherty in Limerick? After
I
all,
know, but he wasn't that well known, though.
no, but he wasn't. But he was. No one's going to be known until people see statues or ask about the history of him. I mean, Hugh O'Flaherty was Limerick educated in Mungret College. He was from Cork. He was brought up in Kerry. He was a true Munster man, and he was
Haven't you statue to Terry Wogan, haven't you?
but sure, look, I mean, the statue.
I mean, O'Connell Street is called after Daniel O'Connell, I presume.
It is,
Yes.
Yeah. And we have no Richard Harris Street.
We have a
He's
statue
not-
to
he's-
Richard
he's not
Harris.
what?
We have
We
no
have a-
Richard Harris Street.
We have a statue to Richard Harris out in UL, and it's
Yeah. The one in Bedford Row, he's like a little dwarf in it.
Yeah.
The one down in Bedford Row.
the one out in UL, isn't it? He's dressed up in
Then-
Hamlet, and he
I
looks.
can say that he never stayed in Limerick, did he? He didn't
But
care
he-
really about Limerick. He was living over in London. I remember he coming in for his brother's funeral. He flew in that morning and flew away in the afternoon. I mean, when he's around,
A
he
busy
should
man.
stay around, and he's not buried here. But in the family
He's
vault.
buried in Bermuda, as far as I know. His ashes scattered
I
over.
told you that before, yeah. His
You
ashes.
see, I do listen to you, Tony.
But well, there was a big hullabaloo in Cork City, I know, back in the 80s about place names. It raised its head again about street names and all, particularly to do with the Civil War and all that kind of
There were a lot of streets in Cork now, Pat, that never changed either. I know of. You know, take Winthrop Street. Look at the Winthrops.
Yeah, Winthrop Street, yeah.
Yeah,
Huh?
and there's another few streets down there that in Cork that will never change, which I'm amazed.
Well,
of.
there's Oliver Plunkett Street is a famous one. Oliver Plunkett
Yeah,
Street.
but look at all the keys down there. Penrose Key, and you have a
Yes,
few other
Penrose
keys
Key,
down
yeah.
there.
You
And,
have, yeah.
all big landowners there were as well, you know,
Yeah.
and they would never change. That happened. So look at the square in Galway, which I constantly call our square, and they call it our square. To me, it should be our square. The Irish were big landowners as well, and they were married into a Limerick family.
You mean they were planters, were they?
They were originally, but then you see that they grew up here.
But it's spelled EIRE, isn't it? Air Square, EIRE. So
EIRE.
EYRE.
As a Ire in England, the Ires, but we
I
call
thought
it
it's spelled EIRE Square.
EYRE, Ire Square.
There's
EIRE
no square called the IRA square.
Air Square as well.
They call it Earl Square.
Yeah, I would. That's how I would.
It's really, and they do call the town after them, all right, they call it Earl Court. And why they call it Earl Court and they can't say Earl Square? I don't know. You kind of wonder,
And there's Washington Street in Cork, of course. Washington
There is,
Street.
yeah, but I say that's it's probably after Washington himself, I'd say. The leading Freemason in America. Yeah. He was a big Freemason, George Washington. That's well known. So now we'll have to discuss enough anyway. There was a quiz on the other night I saw. I was rolling at the television. What president's son took over? What two president and his son took over in America? What president was able to have his son as a president as well?
George Bush.
No.
That's what they were all saying.
Taft, was it? Taft.
Who?
Taft.
No. Adams. John Adams.
Oh.
And his son was president as well.
Yeah, but they should have got points for saying George Bush.
George Bush. Well, the father and the son, they were presidents.
Yeah, but just who was the first?
First. Oh, yeah.
And they were all saying Bush. George Bush.
We're all wondering, of course, who will be the next president of America.
What?
And we'll all know in a couple of weeks' time who will be the next president of America in November. But anyway.
Listen, I'm after putting up a video there now, and I want to watch it. So I'm taking a democratic decision of one.
Morning, Mrs. Bucket.
It's bouquet.
I never knew that.
Trust me.
To me, people are usually just a name on a note.
I will not have milkmen reducing me to a piece of paper.
Is there something wrong, Mrs. Buck?
It seems all right. But in future, I want you to be quite sure that I get my own bottles back. I know that mine have been properly washed, you see. And I can't be quite sure about other bottles. So please inform the people at the depot that I want my own bottles back.
All the bottles are sterilised, Mrs. Buck. Okay. The milk's pasteurised.
It's a matter of complete indifference to me whether it's sterilised, pasteurised, immunised, or privatised. Just inform your superiors that I want my own bottles back. There's a man next door in Elizabeth's house.
Sorry, I don't see the significance.
In Elizabeth's house, a man.
Yes, I heard that.
Bold as you please. If Sheridan were here, he'd be appalled.
Well, steady on. Maybe she's got the decorator in.
Draped in a towel.
Well, at least he sounds clean. Hyacinth, perhaps her husband's come back from Saudi Arabia.
It is not her husband. I warned her against watching Channel 4. She'll come to no good identifying with the continental classes.
And there was the wonderful Hyacinth bucket.
I know something. Very little was known about Hyacinth, but my God, what a singer she was. I mean, there was what's his name that wrote they wrote The Sound of Music, the music for it. They wrote music for her. They were even going to put her into a film. The most incredible mezzo soprano.
Rodgers and Hammerstein.
She's the most incredible mezzo soprano, and when I look at the scene in Sound of Music, where Peggy, what's her name, sang "Climb Every Mountain," I just think that she should have that would have been perfect for her.
Of course, you saw her singing in Newell, did you?
I saw her. No, I went to her sitting an audience with, but I have seen her singing. Mother of God, what a voice! But you can tell from the way she speaks and the way she pronounces her diction, everything about her. You know that she's a singer before you'd ever find out. You know, you'd say to yourself, "I wonder did she ever sing?" She's an incredible singer.
You're watching the
I don't know.
panel.
That program that was on there now, I couldn't stick it. It's an
Really?
program. Stupid old program.
Oh, I loved it. I loved
the
it.
fool all the time, and it's ridiculous. And there's just two next door, stupid. You know,
I loved it, Onslow, when he was trying to clean the chips one day watching the horse racing, and he wiped it off the dog's coat and ate it. It was
that couldn't happen. That's all made up. That couldn't. It's not a bit normal, you know.
Oh, it is normal. I've known people
Well,
like
people
that.
are eccentric. There are percentages people, and
I know people who are like that.
Another item we had put on for people to consider was your favorite cop TV series of all time. Now, there's been many cop TVs on through the year, and of course, I'd be considering vintage ones. Mary, what's your favorite cop TV of all time?
Oh, I don't know really. I mean, my favorite, I liked Rizzoli and Isles. I mean, I liked a lot of them in the, growing up. Hawaii Five-0. I mean, I can remember as a child, saying, well, I'd hear the music of Hawaii Five-0, and I'd say, "Mom, can I just stay up another to watch Hawaii Five-0? And it's not on. I can hear the music and I can Get Smart was another. I can hear the music of Get Smart." And I was allowed to stay up from it. And then you had the Rockford Files, and you had Steve McGarrett. Well, that was Hawaii Five-0, but there was lots growing up. And then you had, what was that one with the two women in it? In the 70s, 80s.
Women in Love, is that?
No, I can't. They were two female detectives.
Dempsey and Makepeace, no?
No, not Dempsey and Makepeace, but I think of it. But I loved that as well. I loved all detective series.
You have to go to bed after Hawaii Five-0. That was on at 7 o'clock.
I
was only about 8 or 9.
What did you like, Tony?
And I loved Castle.
What did I like? I don't know. I shouldn't have watched much television. I was out playing it, so that's it. You know?
Yeah. I suppose one of the ones I loved was not known for the casting of it, and the storylines, and the music, and the characters was Hill Street Blues. I thought that was just phenomenal in the 80s. Hill Street Blues.
Oh, the music was lovely. Yeah, Mickey Post. Yeah.
Be careful out there.
The music was lovely, you know. Yeah. He was going with Joe Barnes and taking his wife.
Daniel J. Travanti.
Well, what about the one with the dog? Well, he had the bulldog.
Tin, is it?
No, he had a bulldog. Cannon. That used to be Cannon.
Oh yeah, you can't say that now. What you say about the man?
No, but he looked like his bulldog.
He was fat. I know.
You
can't say that now. You have to say he's very corporal. You know.
He was rotund.
Rotund, yeah, corporal.
He was
rotund. There were some very good ones. Today, I suppose the father of them all was Peter Falk that died there.
Oh yeah.
Columbo.
Oh yeah, the best thing he was in was the Great Race. That film with Tony Curtis and Jack Lemmon. That was very funny. Very funny in that. He was driving the car with Jack Lemmon in it. That was funny. Yeah. But that's run. Actually, I think they just be on for about 2 hours, an hour and a half anyway, at least.
It was, yeah. It was one of those long ones, yeah.
It was longer than most of them, because most of the shows, especially BBC ones, were only made for 50 minutes.
That's
But
right.
he was the bop
Some
that
of them,
did
I suppose, the first truly comedy show that caught the eye of the mass audience was our own Dave Allen with the BBC.
I don't know. We didn't get much Dave Allen now because it was kind of finished by the time we got to television.
Right, but Dave was I mean, to sit there with just himself and the camera and to entertain you for 30 minutes, 35 minutes was just phenomenal. Of course, he was one of the tiny no man, he's Irish.
Yeah.
And there's some of his relations, his nephew.
Oh, Dave was on the first to get on with English television, really.
He was, yeah, his nephew.
Very few. There's only him now and Eamon Andrews and Valdunican. They were the only ones really that.
Valdunican had his own show, which was very successful.
But Dylan Moran is probably a present day version of Dave Allen. And I think, I mean, certainly he's stand up. When you look at Dylan Moran's stand up, it's almost, you can see the influences there of Dave Allen, that humbling kind of a posh, almost, I know it's not a D4 accent because he's from, I forget what part of Ireland he's from, but Dylan Moran, but that kind of an act, the same, he always reminded me of Dave Allen in the way he
can't place him now,
He was always half drunk in the act, or where he was.
He always holds a cigarette, and he was in Notting.
He was in that television series, the Black Books.
The which?
The Black Books. Black Book was something BBC television.
What you said, I wouldn't watch it all. When I see something not interesting, I couldn't be bothered.
He was in the movie Notting Hill. I don't know. Did you watch it?
The film Notting Hill.
Notting Hill. He was in the shop stealing the book.
No, funny enough, I can't place him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he lose any sleep over it anyway.
Well, Hill Street Blues was
very funny.
The Hill Street Blues series. The music was fantastic.
Oh, music fabulous in Hill Street Blues. Mickey Post was the one that wrote that. Yeah, he wrote a lot of
TV. He did a lot of scores. Mike Post.
Oh, I did an awful lot of them.
He did
See his name coming out of that of them over the years.
Except and John Barry.
Well, John Barry was in films now. He got a lot of English films.
No relation, unfortunately. They wouldn't have money.
John Williams then got in with Spielberg. John Williams did his stuff. And the new fella now on the block is, what's his name, who did, God, I can't give you a name, Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer did the Pirates of the Caribbean. He wrote some lovely stuff, Hans Zimmer. He's still alive and kicking.
Oh, he is,
John Williams. What?
I think Hans Zimmer must be in his 90s, is he?
He's not. Oh, no. No, Hans Zimmer's around 60 odd, it's about 70. Whereas John Williams is at 90 now. But John Williams, the music he's written, John Williams. For anything that Spielberg ever did, he wrote the music for it. Although he's English, John Williams.
Hans Zimmer was fabulous.
He went to live in Hollywood, and then he was. See, to get in, they trust their own composers. Most directors do. They stick with the one fella.
Yeah, and
it's like what you call it now.
Did John Williams do the score for Schindler's List, the music?
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah. Williams did that. If you look at any old film, you'll see the same people coming up. The family called oh God, I can't get their names out this minute.
That's Dylan Moran, Tony.
The Newmans.
Tony.
Oh yeah.
Can you see that?
That's Dylan. Why is it spelled Dylan?
Well, as in Dylan, Dylan Thomas.
He's some County Meath.
But there's a family called Newmans, and there were 3 generations of the Newmans.
Randy Newman.
Alfred Newman, and then his son Lionel Newman. Lionel did the music for MASH. He did that now.
Yes.
He did. Alfred Newman did all the cowboy pictures.
MASH was fantastic.
His son again then is a composer called Randy Newman.
Randy Newman, yeah. He did a lot of the music in Toy Story.
Who did? Oh, Randy Newman. I think Randy Newman did it. There's too many
What's
music
that
for that.
famous one that became a hit in Toy
But like
Story?
you can get into right music or away. There's
You've
some.
got a friend, and you've got a friend in me, is it? You've got a friend in me, is it? Woody?
That's him. Yeah, he sings
You've
that.
got
Yeah.
a friend, and Woody was singing that. You've got
I
a
think
friend
if
in
people
me.
can tell a
That's it.
story, Tony, they can write a piece of, well, they can write a song.
Oh, it's
I
very
think
hard to write for
anyone that,
music.
especially Irish people, there must be something really fascinating that Pat is watching on television.
I thought that a while ago. Now I didn't like saying it. Whatever it is. There's something drawing him away from us.
So aggravating.
It's
So
the blonde.
aggravating. The
No,
minute
it's the
anyone
blonde.
else
It's the
talks,
blonde,
he looks at the TV.
I don't
It's the
know.
blonde.
I can sit here because one thing I hate with historical people are people with notes. It does my head in when I see somebody, and I don't know that, but they might have 16 pages, and when they're talking for 10 minutes and they're only gone through the first 2 pages. I remember I just stopped many a fellow over the years
Single space.
with a load of pages, and he moves over one, and there's about another. There's only a half hour to go, and he's only about the third page, and he's about 32 of them. Well, that does make you either know your subject or you don't, or you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's not entirely true, though, Tony, because
That's it,
when people have to give a presentation,
Well, if you're doing stuff and
they
there
have
are
to do
facts
research.
involved,
You should remember it.
But you can't be all things to all people, Tony. You can't know. If you were
No.
asked to give a presentation on something that you, up to that point, aren't 100%, it's not your area of research. You have to do the research to present.
I was at a talk another night now, and I have the man being asked a question, and I could have answered the question, came to the audience, and he said, "That's out of my field now." And I'd love to stood up and said, "Well, it should be. You shouldn't have bothered doing the talk if you couldn't remember."
But this is it. But that's why people do the research and then they come in, because it might be a branch of their own research and they've been asked to come in and talk about maybe that area, and they go away, then they research it, so they have their notes. Not everybody's confident speaking publicly.
Well,
they might be confident with what they know and with what they've researched, but going up and standing in front of a crowd of people, sometimes the note paper is a security blanket.
They should get a blanket and go around biting it at the same time, shouldn't they?
Did you see next Wednesday, Tony, that the Limerick Historical Society are going into the St. John's Hospital, is it? St. Joseph's Hospital.
So, what about it? We're not going anywhere. We're hoping to go next Wednesday night. So I'll have to come up with something else.
You probably needed child protection certs as well.
Oh, we're not going to. I tell you, most of the members will tell you there's no better than buying me to keep them in line.
Before we finish, we had another topic down for. God, the time is flying. Is as we know, there's a general election around the corner. Now we don't know which corner it is yet, but it's around the corner. We know that for a fact.
They should really wait till after the New Year, because
we know the budget is next month.
Okay, the first.
After that, then there'll probably be a general election. Well, there have to be one by February.
March. That is it in March. Yeah.
So they're saying that we might be canvassing St. Valentine's Day in February. I don't know.
Well, they should have the voting anyway at the weekend. Should be on a Sunday. Not be easier for most people.
I agree with you there, but in the run-up to the general election, has the citizens of this republic have their real choice when it comes down to voting in the general election?
Yeah, I suppose. Well, I'll tell you something else, just sideline to that. 90% of the people, I'm convinced, don't know how to vote. There has never been a program on the television to show people how to vote, who to give number 1 to and give number 2 to, and also to let them know who needs the number 1s and who needs them for the transferring of votes. I've asked so many people and they haven't a clue. They just go in and put number 1 in front of some fella that's looking at them, and don't forget that most of the politicians come from the first 5 letters of the alphabet. And it does pay to be up at the top of the...
It didn't work for Pat. He was B.
Yeah, well, Oh yeah, but I mean, there are always there are always exceptions, you know.
No, not exceptions, but I would say myself that the people themselves, you're right, first of all, they're not educated.
No,
Secondly, and I don't mind saying this against myself, there are an awful lot of hypocrites in our society
unreal.
living amongst us in our communities. There's no doubt
Yeah,
about that. There's not a lot of people deserve everything they get
yeah.
for their inconsistency, for their blatant lies, and not being honest with people.
Oh,
And
that's
they
true.
deserve everything they get. So I think there's a lot of that, Tony.
Oh, an awful lot,
It
you know.
comes back on people as well. I mean, the amount of people say who'll tell you in all walks of life, anything you're going for, an election for, no matter what it is, that, oh, I'll absolutely vote for you. And they haven't a notion of voting for you because you're not part of the clique.
But there are some of them now. There's some people that think, and they'll give you number two, which again, as an independent, that's no good. They don't understand that the
No,
independent needs
you're
some
right.
vote.
You see,
They don't know that.
if people want change, there are two parties they cannot vote for in the PR system,
Yeah.
but they don't accept that. So, for instance, in my mother and father's time, way back when, they used to always vote one Fianna Fáil, two Fine Gael, and three Labour. I mean, every single election, I said, Mum, who'd you vote? One Fianna Fáil, one Fine Gael, one Labour. And even as a young fellow, you say to yourself, I'll have something stronger than tea for my supper, when you listen
Yeah.
to that. You know what I mean? It's just.
And then can you imagine Pat down in his house in Mallow, and in walks Micheál Martin and all of the Fianna Fáil crowd that his father was associated with because he was
They
always
walked the highways and byways for 4 years. But anyway,
Well,
look,
I'm proud to say I never voted Fianna Fáil or Fine Gael in my life. Never did. I don't care.
well, now, we're not advocating people how to
Well,
vote.
I did.
As Tony was saying, I agree.
Because I had a father who was Fine Gael and my mother was Fianna Fáil. And he was English and Protestant before he came here, and she was Irish and Catholic. So in every way, they were a mixed marriage because the two of them she used to give out to him because he was Fine Gael, and he just take no notice of it. But she always voted Fianna Fáil or else Sinn Féin.
Well, obviously today there's some more information coming out. Sinn Féin is probably today, as we're talking about, the wealthiest political
I'd
party.
never vote for them.
They're the wealthiest party in Ireland today. When you take their assets on the island between north and south, so they're a huge, wealthy party, And but I just wonder, Tony, are Sinn Féin a dangerous political party? Are they a force for positivity in society?
They've lost a lot. They were very popular about 2 years ago now. Everybody said that Mary Lou would be the next teacher. Then they lost a bit of ground over various things and different rights. And anyway, and you
Well, you must
wonder,
remember, Tony, sorry for cutting you, they went from 31%, they're down to 18 today.
yeah, you kind of wonder why is that, And whether they pick up or not, I don't know. It's hard to say. But they need you need strong TDs, you see, you want fellas well able to talk, and
You
skim
need
over
that.
questions,
It's not long enough, Pat, since the troubles in the north, and
But Sinn Féin to me are an urban party. They're an urban-based
still
party.
people missing, Pat. There's still people missing whose bodies were never found or handed back to their families. And until things like that happen, I don't believe that a party like Sinn Féin can be in government and be. That's just my belief.
And that's one.
They're still too close to being the political branch of now. I mean, as I say, all one side of my family were out and out nationalists and Republicans in that way. But
But you
as
couldn't
long
be
as people
Republican to vote for the
bodies
fall.
were never found, what can you do? Do you vote for the party that represents the
I
I
don't
just
know.
I just wouldn't feel comfortable.
You kind of
Well,
wonder.
anyway, well, from a couple of weeks out from the general election, I would contend all indications are that we'll have the same government returned again. with maybe a few independents.
We'll see, what happened. It was well, I wish, what's his name? Simon Harris. If you watch him the next time he's talking, he keeps his left finger turned and he's constantly pointing with his left finger, his index finger on his left hand, and he's just kind of bent in two. I wish he just put it down while he's talking. And there should be no phones left into the dark chamber anyway, because they're all constantly on phones and getting messages. Not even listening to what's going on.
But again, Tony, the phones are a crutch because they're parliamentary.
They didn't get to do business. They've been highly paid to do it. They shouldn't be allowed. No phones, because they've been paid to do a job, which to me, some of them are not doing.
We probably don't think there'll be a change. There'll be the same government being far from the gate plus independence, I would think. I don't know, that's my own opinion.
Well, we'll see. I don't know. There might be more independence. We'll see what happens,
We've come to the end of another show, lads. It's been worthwhile, I hope. And we thank to all the people who viewed our programme last week. It was fantastic and well done. And Patsy, thanks very much for the comment. And we'll send you out the programme, everybody who is interested in it sometime tonight.
Where would they send the solicitors' letters now?
You can send them to Mary.
Don't bother, thank you.
Send them to Mary Honan. You can look her up in the directory. But from this edition, from Tony Browne, Mary Honan and myself, good night, lads, and have a great week. Bye-bye.
This is Lair Media. To whom it concerns, welcome to the panel.